There's a certain kind of person who spends their entire life trying to be liked. They say yes when they want to say no. They apologize when they did nothing wrong. They change the way they speak depending on who's in the room. They overthink every message, every conversation, every reaction, and somewhere along the way, they convince themselves that being a good person means keeping everyone happy. But it doesn't. And if you want to understand why, look at Mike Ehrmantraut. Mike is one of the most interesting characters in the Breaking Bad universe because he rarely explains himself. He doesn't desperately seek approval. He doesn't need everyone to understand him. He doesn't walk into a room thinking, how can I make these people like me? He walks in knowing exactly who he is. And that's what makes him so powerful. Because Mike understands something most people learn far too late. You lose yourself when other people's opinions become more important than your own principles. The need to be liked is a trap. Think about how many decisions you make because of other people. You want to say no, but you say yes. You disagree, but you stay quiet. Someone disrespects you, and you laugh it off. Not because you're okay with it, but because you're afraid of what happens if you actually stand up for yourself. That's where people-pleasing becomes dangerous. You stop asking, what do I actually want? And start asking, what will make everyone else happy? The problem is, there is no answer. Someone will always disagree with you. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will think you're selfish. Someone won't like you. And if your identity depends on their approval, you've basically given them control over your emotional state. Mike doesn't live like that. One of the most powerful things about him is that he seems to communicate, you are allowed to have your opinion about me. He doesn't need to control it. He doesn't need to correct it. He simply continues, and that's freedom. Mike doesn't explain himself. One of Mike's most noticeable traits is how little he talks. He doesn't fill silence because silence makes him uncomfortable. He doesn't explain every decision. He doesn't constantly defend his intentions. And he certainly doesn't beg people to understand him. People who constantly seek approval do the opposite. They over-explain, they send another message, then another. They clarify, then clarify the clarification. They replay conversations in their heads. Maybe they misunderstood me. Maybe I should apologize. Maybe I came across as rude. Suddenly, you're spending an hour trying to control an opinion that might not even exist. Mike doesn't do this. When he makes a decision, he stands behind it, and when someone doesn't like it, that's their problem. Of course, there are moments when you should apologize. There are moments when communication matters. But there's a difference between accountability and begging to be perceived as a good person. Sometimes you simply have to say, this is my decision, and let the silence exist afterward. Confidence doesn't need an audience. Mike doesn't need attention. He doesn't need recognition. He doesn't need people constantly telling him he's important. His confidence comes from competence. He knows what he can do. He knows what he can't do. And because of that, he doesn't need to pretend. That's the difference between confidence and insecurity. Insecurity says, I need you to see me as capable. Confidence says, I know what I'm capable of. One needs an audience, the other doesn't. And this is something you can actually build. If you want more confidence, don't just tell yourself you're confident. Build evidence. Learn something. Get better at your craft. Keep promises to yourself. Become more disciplined. Every time you do what you said you'd do, you trust yourself a little more. That's real confidence. Boundaries are not disrespect. Mike also understands boundaries. He has lines. He knows what he will and won't tolerate. And when that line is crossed, he acts. People pleasers often believe boundaries are rude. They think saying no is selfish. They think disappointing someone means they've done something wrong. But the truth is, someone being disappointed by your boundary doesn't mean your boundary is wrong. Someone can be upset with you and you can still be right. Someone can misunderstand you and you can still be acting with integrity. You don't have to win the argument. You just need to know where you stand. You can be compassionate without being submissive. You can be generous without being available all the time. Stop taking everything personally. Imagine someone doesn't text you back.
Your brain immediately starts creating stories. They're angry with me. I said something wrong. Maybe they don't like me anymore. But you don't actually know that. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're tired. Maybe something happened in their life. People who constantly seek approval have a dangerous habit. They turn uncertainty into self-blame. Mike doesn't operate that way. He separates facts from assumptions, and that's a skill worth developing. Ask yourself, what do I actually know? Not what you fear, not what you assume. What do you actually know? Because your mind will always try to fill in the blanks, and when you're insecure, it usually fills them with the worst possible explanation. You don't need to be understood. This might be one of the hardest lessons. You will not always be understood, and sometimes you shouldn't even try. There are people who have already decided who you are. You could explain yourself perfectly, they would still misunderstand you. You could show them your intentions, they would still question them. At some point, you have to accept not everyone is going to understand you. Mike seems to understand this instinctively. He doesn't spend his life correcting every misconception. He knows who he is, and that's enough. Because when you know yourself deeply, other people's interpretations become less important. You stop needing everyone to have the correct version of you in their head. You simply live. The hidden cost of people-pleasing. People-pleasing looks like kindness from the outside, but sometimes it's fear wearing the mask of kindness. You say yes because you're afraid they'll leave. You apologize because they're afraid they'll get angry. You stay quiet because of conflict. You help because you're afraid they'll think you're selfish. And eventually, you don't know whether you're actually kind or simply scared of being disliked. There's a huge difference. A genuinely generous person says, "I want to help." A people pleaser says, "I have to help, otherwise they'll think badly of me." The action might look identical, but psychologically, they're completely different. One comes from choice, the other comes from fear. And every time you betray your own needs for approval, you teach yourself that your needs don't matter. Stop begging to belong. Mike doesn't beg, he doesn't chase, he doesn't plead. He watches behavior, and then he makes decisions. That's something we should all learn. Stop listening exclusively to what people say. Watch what they do. If someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, believe the pattern. If a relationship constantly requires you to prove your worth, pay attention. If someone only likes you when you agree with them, pay attention. Belonging shouldn't require the destruction of your identity. Sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is walk away without a dramatic explanation. You don't need to make them understand. You don't need the perfect final conversation. You don't need closure from everyone. Sometimes, you simply know enough, and you leave. Become someone you respect. At the end of the day, the most important relationship you'll ever have is the one you have with yourself. You can leave a job, a friendship, a relationship, but you can't leave yourself. So stop building a personality that everyone else can tolerate and start building a character that you can respect. Keep your promises to yourself. Develop competence. Control your reactions. Set boundaries. Accept that some people won't like you. Accept that you'll sometimes be misunderstood. Accept that you will disappoint people. And understand that none of these things automatically make you a bad person.